Good morning everyone, welcome to the course on statistics for biomedical engineers. So, before we delve into all of this, right, so what do you think you will learn from this course? What are your expectations? What do you think you will learn from this course? So, let me ask you a simple question, okay. What is this? What mean? Sample mean. What is this? I mean, you say this is average or mean, whatever, right? But what is this? Is it, somebody said sample mean, right? What is a sample? What is a sample? If there is a sample mean, is there something else? Is there some different mean exists? Population mean, what is that? Okay. Sample is a representative of the entire population. Okay. So, what is the difference then between sample mean and population mean? Are you interested in population mean or sample mean? Somebody was asking, telling about population sample, right? So, why is this formula right in the first place? Why do you do sigma xi by summation xi by n? Why not do summation xi by n squared? Or 2 summation xi by n? Why do you need to do, why? You have been doing this from childhood, right? But why do you do this? Why do you think is this right? Summation xi by n is right. Any reason? Any reason to believe that this is right? What is the basis? So, this formula just has a meaning of just the center, is that all? This gives you some average, right? I am something like you have summated divided by n. What is the significance of this? Why do you do this? What is the significance of this? You understand my question, everybody? We did summation xi by n, which you all know, right? But what is the importance of this? Any reason, any idea? Given a data, irrespective of biomedical, irrespective of polymers, electronics, you take data, the first thing you do is what? You are all at master's level. When you read a paper, what do they say? The average value is something. What is the meaning of an average?
The closest value for all observations in the sample.
Not at all. So, what is the class average of this age? Average age in this class? Huh? 22, 23, keeping me also inside. Huh? I am 38. So, what do you think? The class average will be 22? I would have pulled it on the one side. If I bring my son here, what will happen? So, what is closest here? Is 25 closest representative of this group? Definitely not. I am an outlier, right? So, mean gets affected by outliers. So, how can you say mean is the central value? Mean is the closest value. It is not. So, what is the significance of mean? So, these are some of the questions which we will answer systematically. Okay. So, this course we will not only talk about statistics, we will talk about probability. Okay. We will talk about probability distributions and we will learn why learn probability. Have you ever wondered why to learn probability? You have heard about probability, everyone? What is the use of probability? Today we all talk about big data, right? Machine learning, deep networks, etc. Then why are we worried about the probability of an event? To do prediction of future events. But then what is the difference between probability and statistics? Then what do we do in statistics? So you have always learned these two terms come together, right? Probability and statistics. Then why do what is the difference between stat and probability? Right. So see, we will look at systematically all these questions. Okay. So that is what we will first learn. We learn why statistics, why to do probability, what is the connection between probability and statistics, and then start worrying about estimating. So one of the things, so if you ask, let us say biomedical engineering, right, most of you. So if you do clinical trials, what is something which you wanted to prove in clinical trials? What is of interest to you? In clinical trials, let us say I have come up with a medicine for migraine, right, to cure migraine or effectively address migraine. What do you expect from a clinical trial? Why do you do clinical trial, and what is your expectation in clinical trial? This is a common question, right? So somebody came up with a medicine. So the best example is COVID, right? I mean, let us say you have a Covishield. What is it in COVID clinical trial? What do you want to prove from a Covishield clinical trial?
High efficacy.
Huh?
Efficacy.
What do you mean by that? High, what do you mean by that? High is a quantitative word, qualitative word. What does high efficacy mean? Finally, it has to boil down to numbers. So what do you want to show in a clinical trial? Ideally, let us say Covishield, forget ethics, etc. Ideally in a clinical trial, what do you want to show for Covishield or Covaxin? I am sure every one of you here took the vaccine, otherwise you would not be here right now. But what do you want to prove from that? What did the company wanted to achieve actually? What is the objective of the vaccine? Huh? What is the objective of the vaccine? When you are exposed, you should not be able to, you should not contract COVID, right? Simple. If I keep aside ethics for a moment, what is it I should have tested? I should have administered the vaccine and then exposed them to the COVID coronavirus and then said how many of them actually contracted. But can I do it on a billion people? Our globe is around 7 billion more. Can I do it on all? Then your clinical trial itself would have covered all and you would not get any money in the first place, right? So what do you want to do? Let us take this simple example for a moment and understand. So what do you want to do now? A company comes up with a drug, wants to test it, wants to get an approval that it can be sold and wants to prove that it is highly efficacy, and not only that, side effects, right? You want to know that there are no significant side effects, right? And you want to mark if there are, what are the side effects, is it tolerable, etc., right? From a layman sense, I am not even getting into all the pathways, etc. From a layman sense, if I take the medicine, what is my objective? It should address my concern and it should not give any other side effects. Now this is, if I just want to test this, what do you want to do? For Covishield, what would you do? Suppose you were asked to do this, what would you do? Is it only one group? First let us start, there is 7 billion population, right? How do you start from there? How do you choose the numbers? How many are you going to test? Can I do it in 20? Just 20 people? Can I do it in 2 billion? 2 billion? Not affordable. 20? Too small. Can I do only in women? Men alone? No. Caucasian? Just in Caucasian? No. Hispanic? Asian? No. So there are too many, what do we call it as, factors that would confound your results, right? So I have to list down what are the factors that will affect the efficacy of the drug itself. So, it should be able to work across people, across age groups. Now, what is the dosage? That is a very important question. Can the dosage be same for an adult and a kid and an aged person? Who can take, if there is a prior history of history of known diseases or known disorders, let us say somebody has diabetes, is it okay to administer? Do we have a, you need to test, right? So, those, see, some of them you will get to know when you develop a drug, because there are known pathways that will say that diabetes person cannot take this drug because it will interfere with his other. So, the drug interaction, the relationship, right, will affect that also to be taken into effect. But it is not that it is only the known, but when you do a drug, when you develop a drug, when somebody develops a drug, they can only know only so much about the drug interaction. You cannot cover all the disorders in the globe. So, you have to start testing for it. Have you looked at a drug and then said what is it they will give you to be administered under a prescribed this thing? What else you see? Will they not have disclaimers? When you take serious drugs which will have side effects, you will have a strong set of disclaimers and a strong set of rules or instructions saying who should take it, what are the expected side effects. Sometimes you take it because the side effects are smaller compared to the effect of the drug itself. It is not that every drug will come without side effects. So, if you say the best example is treatment for neoplasms, which is cancer, right, technically put it is a neoplasm. So, what do? We give what currently? Radiations therapy. Does not have side effects, but the side effects outweigh the the main risk a person has, a patient has, and therefore we still go with the treatment. Now, the dosage becomes important, right. So, to quantify all this, you need to study the effect on the samples, right, and then derive quantitative numbers saying this drug is 95% of the time, no drug will work 100%. Does it ever happen? No disease also kills 100%. There is no known disease which will have a 100% mortality rate. No known disease, including rabies. Rabies is considered to be the most deadly disease ever known to mankind. I do not know, because if you think Ebola, etc., blah blah blah, they are all 50-60%. Rabies has the worst 97 plus percentile. Still it is 97 plus, it is not 100. You understand? There is no known disease which is 100% fatal, and there is no known drug which is 100% efficacy, including vaccines which are tested. So, polio vaccine very highly robust today, in the sense most likely to work, but most likely, not 100%. So, you want to come up with numbers, how much is my efficacy, is the risk outweigh, does the risk outweigh the the use, or is the use outweighs the risk, right. There are many drugs which were invented but were given up, okay. So, a classical example is one of the drugs which was used for reduction of weight, okay, 1940s, not now, 1940s, like you take the drug, I forget the name of the drug, you take the drug, you lose weight, you do not need to do anything, it is like a free lunch, you eat whatever you want, you will lose weight, guaranteed to lose weight, It was reaching a fame to a great extent that people started using it in the US and were very happy. What happened is the side effect is cardiac arrest. There is no free lunch theorem, right? The side effect is cardiac arrest, many people died. Okay. So, the side effect, and there are incidences in our own country where I would not name the drug manufacturers, where they do drugs, I mean when they develop drugs, they do not know the side effects. So, women went working in the drug manufacturing facility. It turned out that the drug, when it is just even small bit is exposed, they can never parent once and for all, for lifetime. Nobody knew about it, right. So, understanding the interactions and quantifying them and quantifying the risks and quantifying the efficacy plays a major role, right. That is one of the best use cases that I could give for a clinical trial. So, one of the best use cases I could give for Y statistics, right. It comes across disciplines, that is a very different story, but just in biomedical, right, when you take devices, right. So, you all heard about today medical devices play a major role, right. The medical devices market today is much bigger than what? The drug market actually, and it is going to grow steeply, the medical devices. But if you look at regulations, both in India it is just in nascent stages. Even in the US there is not absolutely a strict regulation for medical devices. You can go check a Netflix documentary on medical devices. It is bleeding, I forget the name, it starts with bleeding. Okay. So, the interesting part is you can get an approval for a medical device based on, if you prove that this medical device is similar to some other medical device which got approved, then you do not need to do a large scale clinical trial. You see what I mean? So, you come up with a device and you prove somehow that this device is similar to whatever is approved earlier, then you do not need to conduct a large scale clinical trial. This was earlier, I mean this was the regulation. I think, I do not know whether they recently changed, and up until 2019 this was the regulation. Okay. So, what happens, a device was, clinical trial was conducted in 1970, let us say 72 a device came mapping it to 70. Now 75 device came mapping it to what? 72. Now 2010 will have, or 2020 the device will have no relationship with 1970, but still it was got approved because somehow the path is established. So, there is absolutely a very less clinical trial for medical devices. Result, I will tell you, there was a device which was developed so that women does not get pregnant, and earlier it used to be a big problem to actually do this. They came up with a very simple device, just like a few rings attached somewhere. Okay. Now people got it, that company shot to fame in a short span of time because it was a big deal. Women were very happy, just 10 minutes job. Okay. Now many had it. The only catch 22 here is the company knows only to fix it, they cannot remove it. It's not, I am not talking about something funny. I mean, if you go through the documentary, you will see how many lives suffer today. There is no end to it because you cannot pull it out. Meaning what? It is located in such a complex region that nobody can pull it. And because it is ring or materials, it breaks down. If it breaks, it creates pain for life. Many suffer and there is no cure. Why? Because they cannot take it out. It stays inside for forever. And there is a big community now fighting and suing the company. That is it. Right. So, once forever that stays in the body, you can never pull it out. Such a, and who gave the approval? What was the clinical trial done? If it was clinical trial was done properly, what would have happened? You would have written a protocol, and what would the protocol say? Because in clinical trial you just not only administer, but you have to bring them back to normality. You would have immediately thought about how to retrieve it back. They did not think about it because they never bothered to write a proper protocol. They know that this can be gotten approval easily. See the effect, right? So this was a device, still people are fighting to do about this, what to do with this. Okay, you cannot pull it out, it breaks, people get pregnant even after that, and then the only solution they say is to do add more, because they cannot pull it out. And such is the case. I am not, no, it is about million people, I am not talking about hundreds, 200s, a small sample, million people got into this trapped. Okay. So this study of clinical trials and samples and analyzing the efficiency of each and every biomedical equipment or a device or a, what to say, a drug is one of the utmost important thing in this field. Okay, and that is where you encounter the stats. Okay, I will show you many examples, but I just wanted to begin with this so that you all understand the importance.